This video covers review 4 over functions. So problem 1 asked me to solve. When I'm solving, I use don't call me after midnight. So I do have a -2 to distribute. -2 times 3x is -6x. -2 times +2 is a -2, and everything else stays the same. So I've done the distributing. Next, I'm looking at combining like terms, and I do have like terms to combine. So for my x's, I have -6 and +4 for a total of -2x's. Then, to continue solving for x, I do not need to move my variable to the same side, but I do need to move that -2 because I need to add or subtract. So the 2 cancels, and I have -2x equals 14. And then I do need to divide by -2, so x equals -7. Problem 2 asked me to simplify. So remember, when I'm simplifying, I'm not doing the same don't call me after midnight, but I'm doing some of those similar steps. So I'm going to take that -3 and distribute to get rid of my parentheses. So 4x is just going to be rewritten. -3 times 3x is -9x. -3 times -1 is +3. So I'm basically taking the top part of don't call. So combining like terms, I have -5x's and then a +3. Problem 3 says Miss Adams bought a refrigerator that cost $1,200 including tax. The cost of electricity to run the refrigerator is estimated at $78 per year. Write an equation that represents C, the total cost of the refrigerator over including electricity over N years of operation. So the total cost is going to equal that refrigerator, which is $1,200, plus the cost of electricity over N years, which is $78 per year. Now, we don't know how many years, which would be in, and so we're just going to leave that as it is. So C, the cost is going to equal $1,200 to buy it plus $78 per year. Then they ask me to write an inequality that could be used to help Miss Adams from problem 3 determine how many years it would take for the total cost to be more than $1,600. So we have the cost, and they want this to be more than, just greater than $1,600. And this one also just asks you to write an inequality, so we would leave it there. But we would want to know where the total cost would be greater than $1,600. Problem 5 tells me if 3x plus 12 equals 48, what's the value of 2x plus 1? So first thing I'm going to do is solve for x by using don't call me after midnight. So 3x equals 36. And don't call me after midnight. This is the bottom 2 steps because I don't distribute, don't combine, don't move. So I've added or subtracted. I need to divide. So x equals 12. So for the value of 2x plus 1, instead of x, I'm going to replace it with 12 and solve. When I plug all of this into my calculator, I get 25. Problem 6 asked me to solve for L, so using don't call me after midnight. No parentheses, can't combine like terms, don't have terms on both sides. I need to add or subtract whatever is not directly attached to L. On the left side, P and 2W are not like terms, so I will just rewrite them. And then to finish solving for L, I need to multiply or divide, in this case divide by 2. So you could see it written like this or like this. Hold on. So 2W. So you could see it where they've divided both pieces by 2 or where they just divide the whole thing by 2. Problem 7 says a cable company charges $75 for an installation plus $20 a month. Another cable company does not charge an installation fee but $35 a month. For how many months of cable service would the total cost be the same? So we're wanting to know company 1, company 2, where would they be the same? Company 1 is $75 plus $20 per month. Company 2 is $35 per month. In order to solve, don't have parentheses, don't have to combine. I do have variables on both sides, so I'm going to move the smaller one. Anytime we cross that middle line, make sure you're doing the opposite. To continue solving for m, I don't have anything added or subtracted, but I can divide. So 75 divided by 15 is 5 months. Problem 18, Jessica's having friends over for dinner. She has $18 to spend, so she orders a pizza for 12, drinks are $150. How many drinks can she order? So if you only have $18 to spend, you cannot spend more than what you have. So what she spends needs to be less than or equal to the money she has. Now to spend, she has $12 on a pizza. Drinks are $150 each. And again, that's going to be less than or equal to 18. So I'm going to grab my calculator really quickly and complete 18 minus 12, which is 6. And then I'm going to take 6 and divide by 150. And D is less than or equal to 4. So she can buy up to 4 drinks. This graph we're going to use to answer questions 9 through actually 11, not 12. So 9 asked me for the domain. Remember, the domain is all of my x values. I find it easiest to start on the left side and write all of my x's working my way to the right. So we have an x value of -5, -2, 0, 3, and 7. Range is all of my y values. So I use my y-axis for this one. You can start at the bottom or the top. I tend to start at the bottom, so I have 2 of them at -4. I have 1 at 0. I have 1 at 1. I have a point at 2. And I have a point sitting at 6 for the y's. Then it asks me if this function is a relation, why or why not. So remember, in order to be a function, if the relation is a function, not if the function is a relation. So if it is a function, then that means that the x values will not repeat. However, right here, if I complete the vertical line test, the x value at -5 repeats. You could also say vertical line test does not pass when x is 5. Vertical line test, VLT. It's completely up to you. Problem 12 asks me to identify the range if we're given the function f of x equals -3x squared plus 4, and the domain is 1, -2, -3. So remember, you can put this into your calculator. In y equals, I'm going to put -3x squared plus 4. So hopefully you've practiced that enough times to know how to do that. If not, or if you don't have a calculator, then you find f of 1 by plugging in 1 for x. Same thing with -2. Same thing with -3. If you remember how to do it on the calculator, you plug this into y equals, and you click second table or graph, either one will take you to the table. And my domain is all of my x values. So when x is 1, the calculator tells me that y is 1. When x is -2, the calculator tells me y is -8. -3, the calculator tells me -23. So that might be something, if you're not sure how to do that, make sure you brush up on it before the test. If you don't remember on the calculator or you don't have one at home, then all you have to do is plug these in exactly like you see them to the calculator, replacing those x values with the x's from your domain and figuring out what. So this page is asking me on page 3 to identify the domain and range of each graph and then classify it. So 13, domain is all of my x values. This is my x-axis, so I'm looking at x's from there to there. My x's go everywhere. Oop, that was bad. My x's go everywhere in between those x's. So if I go all the way out on the left side, this x is at -4, and all the way out to the right, that x is at 2. So remember, with domain and range, we use less than signs. It goes from -4 to +2, and everything in between those points is included. Also, those points have endpoints or full bubbles, so they are also included and use the less than or equal to signs. My y's, we use the y-axis, and they go up and down. So if I go all the way down, it goes down to -6, and then I go all the way up to 6. Remember, we look at the entire graph, not just the endpoints. So the range for this would be from -6 all the way to +6, and everything in between. And then this would be a continuous graph because it continues moving. There's not little dots. Problem 14, I'm going to identify that this point is at 9, -4. My x-axis is the one that goes side to side, and my x's from this point go to the left, which is less than. They get smaller. So my x's will be less than 9 and cannot equal 9 because there's an empty bubble. My y's start at 4 and then go up, so I'm framing that point. So my y's going up from -4 are getting bigger than -4. This graph is also continuous because it has a straight line or a line. Problem 15, my domain is my x's, so my x's go out on the left to -2 and go all the way to the right to 4. So -2 has an open bubble, I leave it open, but 4 has a closed bubble, so I do And then my y's go all the way down to -3, all the way up to that's not a -3. Go all the way down to 3 and all the way up to 7. So they go from -3. At -3 we have an open bubble. 7 is closed. Oh, it's not a negative. Sorry, y'all. And then this is a continuous graph because there are not blips or stops. It is one line. Problem 16. My point is at -3, +5. My x's are left to right. These are going from -3 and getting bigger because they're going to the right. As I go from -3 on the x's, going to the right gets bigger. And then the y's are at 5, but they are going down. So my y's are getting less than 5. Both of these are less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, because there is a line under the inequality. And this would also be continuous. 17 and 18 just ask us to identify discrete or continuous, and both of these are going to be discrete because they have very broken up specific points, not a line. This video covers review 4, pages 4 through 6. Problem 19, ask which of these is not a function. Remember, in order for something to not be a function, x has to repeat. So A has 2 x's that repeat. That one is not a function. B has no repeat x's. C has no repeat x's. D has no repeat x's. So A is my answer. Also remember, the only thing you're looking at is those A's. We don't care about the Y's. I mean the x's, we don't care about the Y's. This one asks which is a function. So that means there are no repeats. This also means if you're given a graph, it has to pass the vertical line test. Problem A does not, or answer A does not pass the vertical line test because the vertical line crosses through more than once. Same thing with B. C is okay. D is not because those vertical lines are literally on top of each other, so they're touching everywhere. 21, ask which of these is a function. So 1, we have 3, 4, and 3. That is not a function. 2, 3, 4, 5 is. On part 3, 3, 3, 3 is not. 4, 3, 4, 5 is. So the only option with 2 and 4 is answer choice B. 22 asks which of these is not a function. So we are looking for repeats or to fail the vertical line test. A passes, so it is a function, which is not what we're looking for. B passes, so it is a function, which is not what we're looking for. C fails because it hits twice. D passes, and that was the one we just set up above, was a function. So for these, remember that you can plug them into your calculator to see like a kind of shortcut for having to find all of them. So I'm just going to pull up my calculator on the computer, and I can't do that. So problem 23, we're looking for f of -3. So I'm going to put this into y equals x squared minus 5. So if you have your calculator, you can do this with me. And then I click second graph or second table to see the table. Remember, whatever is inside is your x value. So on my xy table, I go to where x is -3 and write down the y value. And so as I scroll to -3, it tells me that y is 4. Now, I'm going to skip to 25 really quickly because I already have that f function in my calculator. So when f is f of 2, when x is 2, y is -1. I'm going to make sure I copy that down. And now I'm going to plug in my g function. So that g function is -4x plus 2. So I'm going to go back to y equals and plug -4x plus 2 into y equals. So 24 is asking when x is -2. So I scroll to when x is -2 and my y is 10. And that all just comes straight from the calculator. 25 is asking for where g of -1 is. So when x is -1, y is 6. And then we already have that other piece. So then in my calculator, I put 6 minus -1, and I get 7. Problem 26, this time, instead of giving me a function, they give me a set of points in the function. So remember, anything on the inside is an x value. So when x is -1, y is 5. So we're just using those numbers on the inside to write whatever the y value is that corresponds. So 27, when x is -2, y is 7. Problem 28 wants me to find 2 of them. So -1 we said was 5. F of 2 when x is 2, y is -1. And 5 minus -1 is 6. 29, this time they are asking me for x and giving me a y. So when y is 5, x is -1. If x is 2, find this. So I'm going to plug in 2 for x. -2 plus 2 is 0. When x is 0, y is 3. And 31, f of 5, when x is 5, y is -7. So I replace f of 5 with -7, and 3 times -7 is -21. These, they want me to explain discrete or continuous. So remember, discrete means has to be counted and is not measurable. You can't have in-betweens. Continuous, you can have in-betweens. So height is continuous because you can have in-betweens on height. You can be 5 feet 4 1/4. You can be 5 feet 4 1/8. You can have in-betweens. A bag of chips is going to be discrete because you only have a specific number of chips. While chips get broken, you don't really have like a half, an eighth, a fourth of chips. So I believe that they are discrete. Distances are always going to be continuous because you can be closer or farther or anywhere in between. From London to Houston, you can be anywhere in between. Number of apples picked is going to be discrete because when you go to the store, you only buy apples in full. You can't chop an apple, take half an apple to the cashier and ask for the other, to only pay for the half. Same thing with number of people. You can't have half of a person or a part of a person. You can have people with disabilities who don't have all of their parts, but that's still a full person. You can't have part of a person. And the last 4 problems, 37, the Tiger Club is selling popcorn, and the number of boxes they order is a function of how many people they want to serve. The function consists of only the ordered pairs 24, 6, 35, 7, 42, 8, and 59. Write the domain and range of this situation. So domain is still just my x values. So my x's are 24, 35, 42, and 50. And that's just looking at that first number. And then my y's are the second number, the 6, 7, 8, and 9. Problem 38 gives us a function, f of x equals 0.5x minus 4, which represents the pounds gained at Halloween, f of x, for x amounts of candy eaten. If you eat no more than 15 pieces of candy, what is the range for this function? So they're giving me an x and asking for the range. So my x's can be anything from 0 to 15. So in y equals, I'm going to plug in 0.5x minus 4 and see some things that is going to tell me. So 0.5x minus 4 and second table. So when y is 0, if I use my chart, x, y, when x is 0, y is negative 4. My x's can go all the way up to 15. So when x is 15, y is 3.5. Now, I can eat any of those pieces of candy in between. So my range is going to be continuous from negative 4 to 3.5. I could gain any of those pounds and kind of anything in between. And then part 39, these are completely up to you, but 39 wants a picture of something that is a function. So you can draw something funky if you want. And then a picture of something that is not a function means your x's repeat. So remember, if it is a function, whatever you draw here, x's no repeat, has to pass the vertical line test. Is not a function means your x's repeat, and it would fail the vertical line test.